and church they were playing a summer thing, a festival in their town. I don't know, fireman's ox or some kind of thing. And one of their members was on vacation. So knowing that I could read bass clef, they said, come and play bells. I said, I don't even know what bells are. I'm going to teach you. So that day is when I fell in love with bells because I played E and F4 and B3 on Alexander's ragtime band. At least those are the notes I was supposed to play. The lady to my left was not there at that rehearsal, so Nick playing. And so I fell in love with bells. Within the next year, I was directing a bell choir. Nobody in that group used four-in-hand, so I had never seen it. And then we went to the group that I directed at the next church. Again, nobody used four-in-hand. It was just three songs here, I said bells. We went to a concert by a visiting group. I don't remember who it was. And they were holding two bells in one hand and playing them at different times. What was even happening? It was just like, my gosh. I mean, like I said, I was just in complete awe of their amazing abilities. I wanted to do that. So, I became a soloist and in a full choir, and I learned how useful it is to do that. We call it four in hand. Although sometimes it feels like four in hand, doesn't it? That's what Siri calls it, four in hand. So, the things you can play more notes more musically when you don't have to scramble to put one bell down before picking up another one. So it's very useful for that. And the reason it's called in hand, that's an old British thing. So in Britain, they play bells either in hand or off table. Off table does not mean without a table. It means you pick them up off of the table to ring them. So we would call that back ring. They ring them this way. And with in-hand bells, you ring them in hand and you ring them forward. So that's why it's for in hand. But in American English, when we say off table, it means that without a table, we're playing away from the table. That's not what that means. And it's not off the table, it's off table. It's British English. It's different. One could say that they own the copyright on English, but still. So in this class, we're going to learn four of the most commonly used methods of four-in-hand. How to assemble and disassemble them both on the table and on the fly. And we also have some simple practice drills to polish our technique. So even if four-in-hand has previously been foreign-hand to you, my hope is that you'll leave this class with a solid foundation on how to build these skills. So why do I call this class Use It or Lose It? I don't mean that if you don't use it, you will lose it. What I mean is if you're not using it, lose it. If you don't use the skill, you will lose it. That's not what, it's true, but that's not what this is. So if you don't need to have both bells in your hand, put the one you don't need down. We have more control with one bell in our hand than with multiple bells in one hand. Four-in-hand, we gain utility, but we sacrifice some control. And of course, the more you practice, the more control you will have even with multiple bells in your hand. So I like to say this, the bells live on the table, not in your hands. Pick them up when you need them, put them down when you don't. Now, need can mean different things in different contexts. But one egregious example I saw was a piece that had one of the sevens only played on the very last chord. And the lady had it in her hand the entire piece. It didn't play until the end. So very nutty. It didn't ring until the end. So it was just in the hand. It's like, but that sacrifices control of the other bell. So pick them up when you need them, put them down when you don't. If you're going over here away from the table to do like a little dance or something before you come back to the table, you may need to have bells that you're not immediately ringing over here. So that includes need. So need is specific to the situation you're in. We'll put them down when you don't need them anymore. Okay. So some terminologies, just to make sure we're all speaking the same language here. Stacked is one bell lying on top of another. I don't mean like this. I mean the handles, one bell is sitting on top of another in some kind of four-in-hand configuration. Interlocked is when one handle is inside the handle of the other one. So that would be like this. So you can see one handle is inside the other bell. You could actually hold them like that because they're loops. And you can string loops together. 1, 1, 3. You didn't hear me say that. That's a configuration of your fingers. 1, 1, and then the other 3.
Oh.
So when I say 1, 1, 3, that's this. We also sometimes do 1, 2, 2. So it's like live long and prosper. So you'll hear me say that as we're going through here. When I say where to put your fingers, I'll say 1, 1, 3 or 1, 2, 2. Just to get these things somewhere. So another slide of terminology, which bell is which? The primary bell is the one that's positioned between your thumb and your first finger. The secondary bell, when there are only two in your hand, is the one that is somewhere else. The new notation guide that was just released 2 weeks ago also includes tertiary for when you're playing six in hand. We did not include quaternary because Danny was not on the committee. Danny Lyons is a soloist in Florida. He plays 4 bells in each hand. It's amazing. Whoa. It's amazing. He played them at the Liverpool International Symposium, and immediately after he was swamped by all the kids there, what are you doing? But all these terms so far have been in the handbell notation difficulty level system and solo and ensemble notation from 2017. Again, we just released a new one. Slightly different title, handbell notation difficulty level system. We took all the solo and ensemble stuff and put it in the handbell notation. Because there ain't no such thing as solo and ensemble techniques, it's just handbell techniques, and you use them differently in different situations. Okay, so, again, and we will go over this step by step as we go, so I'm not expecting you to remember it. This is in your notes for you to look back. Ringing is just your regular ringing stroke. Those of you who took my class this morning, you know, preparation, strike, and follow through. That's just your regular ring. Push is palms facing forward. Push, like you're opening a door. There's going to be a kind that we're going to say that used to be called ring and knock, but I discovered that when you tell people to knock it, there's not an actual door there, they do this. So now it's pushing the door open. Ring and push. Combo. So if this is ring and this is push, what does combo mean when it's between ring and push? Like halfway in the middle. Forehand. So it's like a 45-degree angle. Again, we'll get into the details later. Thumb knock. When the bell that's closest to your thumb rotates around the axis of the other bell. So for example, if you're old enough to remember, Fonzie lays down, Fonzie stands up. You're all going to be like Arthur Fonzarelli from the Happy Days.
Like I know who Fonzie is, but I've never heard.
He was always like, hey.
Oh, yeah.
He did the thumbs up thing. Gosh, am I that old?
Here you go.
Basically, when combined with the preparation and follow through, it ends up being like a knock. It's like you're knocking on the side of this music stand with your thumb. So it's kind of like this, like knocking on it. So it'll make more sense when we get to the actual bells, because there's also a pinky knock, and that's where that part of this other bell rotates around with the other one. Again, this is for your future reference. It'll all make sense later. Okay. And then there's piston. Piston is one that I do not choose to use, but I use when I have to. And again, I'll explain later. So a piston, if you're this bell pointing straight up, if you've got 2 bells in your hand and you want to ring this one, it's straightforward. There's no preparation or follow through. It's just the piston. The other bell in your hand, you're going to ring this way. It will make sense when I get there, I promise.
Okay.
So like I said, all of these strokes do the complete normal preparation, strike, and follow through except the piston, because if you try to do preparation, strike, and follow through with piston, you're ringing them both all the time. It will make sense for everyone. Still on the stuff is forehand notation here. So the note name of the primary bell is above the slash. So if you think of the slash this way, above the slash is the primary bell, below the slash is the secondary bell. And the number of slashes corresponds to the number of clappers moving in the same direction. So because the clappers go forward and backwards, if both clappers move at the same time in the same direction, that is a parallel motion. If they're set up this way, so that one rings when you turn it this way and one rings when you turn it this way, that's perpendicular. Yeah, I feel like I'm saying it'll make sense later, I promise. Okay. This is all just foundational stuff. So, and the way you can tell left hand from right hand, the left hand slash goes this way, the right hand slash goes that way. And again, if you have 2 clappers going in the same direction, you'll have 2 slashes. If they're perpendicular, you will only have 1. And this is screenshotted right out of the 2009 book. All right. So those of you who just got here, you're going to need 4 small bells. I have 4 right here. Yes.
Which one are you going to use?
And remember that they belong to the set. They do not belong to the set.
There's 2.
Here's 2. Go get 2 more.
There's 2 more over here. I have 1.
So which are 4 here?
I have 3 here that need home. You can have 1 more back there.
Here's
Michèle. In technical terms, it's a parallel push. And remember, push is palms forward, you're pushing like you're pushing on a door. It can be a bit awkward to read each bell separately. This is what it looks like. We're going to set it up in a minute. I want to show you what it looks like for the things. Notice how for the left hand, the bell that's on top of the stack is facing in. Ditto this way. You see how they're in the middle. They're not on here, the castings are on here, the casting is here. And on all four bells, you can see the little bell picture in penny form. Okay. So again, this is for reference, it's in your notes.
That's dots.
I'm looking for the dot.
How do we put it together? So this is assembly on the table. You guys are ahead of me. Sorry.
Okay, looking up here.
Did I say put it together yet?
You told me to.
So you start with four bells lying on the table as usual.
There.
Now, and again, I said earlier, the pitch doesn't matter, they're whatever they are. We're gonna sound terrible, it's okay. You can, and I say leave extra space between the two inner bells. So your outer bells and inner bells, that's just for here, it doesn't really matter where the space is. You need two bells and two inner bells. So in this one, take your outer two bells. These are your primaries. Why are they primary? They go between your thumb and your first finger. Unstack those bells, Stephanie. We're not that point.
Oh, I thought that's what you told me to do.
No, I said to pick them up. Pick them up. It's okay. I was that kid too. It's okay. So you take them, the outer two bells, and on the table, did I say pick them up? I did not say pick them up here. They're lying on the table. Take your outer two bells. I'll show you what I'm talking about.
Start with four bells on
And I
each
just want
end.
you to do, I want you to do this. Okay? See?
This?
Just, I just want them to be on the table like this. So these two, they're all laying on the table, you're not touching the bells.
Okay, got it.
Did I mention earlier that I learned to teach by teaching engineers?
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry.
Sorry.
My son's an engineer, I get it.
So everything is broken down into its smallest components, so step by step.
Yeah.
So it's like that metaphor with the jug, and you fill it with rocks, and is it full? No, then we fill it with sand. Is it full? No, then you fill it with water. Is it full now? So there's things we go. So I'm trying to go step by step because that way I make sure you all come with me.
Got it.
And I'm not skipping anything. Okay, so keep the campaniforms, which is a little bell picture of all four bells pointing up toward the ceiling. You can see all of the campaniforms. Now, take your primary bells, and this is why I said the lead.
I have a question back there.
Yes.
Okay. Some of this set does not actually have the crown on it, they've got a different,
Well, no,
They
they
got
got dots.
dots.
they've got a dot on it, and there's one.
Oh, the
that-
old ones. Yeah, so just pick a side. Yeah, the old Chulies, those of you who may not know, not only did they not have the little bell picture, but they also say A sharp on one side and B flat on the other side.
Oh,
Very annoying.
I didn't notice that.
Instead of having both. My first solo set at the church I was at had those. And I was playing a piece that was in A flat major, but I had A flat, A, and A sharp. And it turned out to be flat. It's on the other side. Anyway. And I think, is that because they used to always keep them evenly adjusted so you could bring them in either way and it didn't matter which way was on top? Do
They
you
have
think?
to, otherwise.
I mean, that's what it kind of feels like.
It's
to me,
plausible.
but-
They have to.
Certainly plausible. Okay, so now we take the primary bells, which are the ones that are, the top of are facing each other, and you just put them on top of the other ones. Stephanie, you can stack them now.
Oh, make sure they're far apart.
Just so that they don't clang into each other. So I said leave extra space. So when viewed from above, it should look like that. So you can see all four little bell pictures, you can see all four note names, right? How do we pick them up? This is where 1, 1, and 3 comes in handy. So I'm going to start with the left hand. Your thumb goes in the southeast quadrant.
What?
Wait a minute.
I'm not an
Where's
engineer.
north? I thought north moved.
The index finger goes in the northeast quadrant. The other 3 fingers go in the northwest. The southwest is empty. So, 1, 1, and 3. Your fingers are 1, 1, and
I've been
3.
doing it right. Oh.
So 1, 1, and 3. There's nothing down here. Same thing for the other hand. Thumb goes in the southwest. Index finger goes in the northwest. The other 3 go in the northeast. And the southeast is empty. And then you can pick them up. Now you don't need to squeeze the bells. We talked in my class this morning about how the bell just sits on your hand. We don't hold it, we don't grip it, it just sits on your hand. It should be nice and loose. It sounds counterintuitive, but that's the way it is. that's how we pick them up, and we're not going to ring them yet, so you can probably put them, we're gonna disassemble them now. The way you disassemble them is you put them on the table, you let go of the secondaries,
Then
and
back
you put the
down.
primaries back down. So, you will ring them in a moment, I promise.
Okay.
So how do we set them up when one's on the table, one's in our hand? So, we start with our 4 bells lying on the table. We take 2 of them, I say inner bells, I had to choose, just pick 2. And hold me, and have them in your hand so that they're seated on your hand in the normal fashion. Now, this is hard to explain in text. So as you lower your hands toward the table bells, turn the mouths of the primary inward, so their mouths are both pointing in towards each other. Be sure to keep the companiforms facing up. It's like trying to describe weaving via text. Very Slow Healthy Ringing has like a page and a half of instructions on how to weave, because trying to describe it is a lot harder than just showing it. So what I'm saying is you turn the bells so that the mouths of the bells are facing each other, one's in your hand. Turn them so that the companiform is towards the ceiling.
Okay.
Lower them to the other bells. So your fingers are in 1, 1, and 3, and then you pick them up. Yeah, still Shelly. This is known as Shelly, parallel push for Shelly. Who knows why it's called Shelly?
I knew you would know.
Go ahead, Bob.
So you got it.
Oh, yeah. So back in the day when Don Alleluia was going around the country doing handbell workshops, he came to California. And President P.L. Grove and Kathy Fink had him in to do a workshop at their church. And he was showing them this, and he had some other name for it. I do not know what he called it. That has been lost to the sands of time. But he demonstrated, like, oh, that's how Shelley rings. Michèle Wagner, Michèle Wagner was one of the ringers in the Bell Choir. Those of you who know Bill and Lee Wagner, their daughter. They're like, that's the way she rings it. So Don thought that was such a good name for it. He called it Shelley ringing everywhere it went, and that's why it's called Shelley. Notice that it has an E. Shelley. Very important. 2 L's though. So I've met her. She's very nice. She plays viola.
She doesn't ring handbells?
Not anymore. And actually, I think I'm getting her mixed up with somebody else. It was Shelley Wagner, and the other one is Wendy Wagner. So I'm sorry, I conflated 2 people. Bill and Lee's daughter is for another type of horn. This is Shelley. I've never met her. But there is an Overtones article about her from the mid-90s or 2000s, where PL and Kathy went and interviewed her as well. So anyway, when your primaries touch the secondaries, as you're lowering your bells down, let your hands relax. Because if you're holding the primaries very tightly, when you put them down, they're not going to be flat against each other like this. They're going to be like this. And then as you pick them up, they're either going to go to Shelley or they're going to go the other way. So in order to get them to stack correctly, as you're putting them on top of the other one, you relax your hands so that the handles can be flat against each other for this. Does that make any sense?
Question,
Yes.
in the previous one, our outer bells were our primaries.
It doesn't matter.
That's what
Okay.
I had to pick 2.
All right, I'm just,
Yeah.
got it,
We're agnostic as far as pitch. It'll be the 2 that you need to be primaries in the situation you're in.
got it.
I just had to pick 2. So, how do we ring them together? So to ring them together is right there in the name. Parallel push. To ring them both together, you push as if you're pushing on a door. You palm forward, preparation, strike, and follow through. Now, don't ring down. We ring forward. Why not down?
Because the sound goes
The
there.
sound and also physically on your body.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
ringing down, you put now this extra weight in your hand and this extra torque in it. And unless you're careful, it can pull your wrist down, which is not ergonomically sound. Unless you're careful, I mean, you could keep your wrist steady and ring it there if you really wanted to, but it's not best practice in terms of ergonomics. Anyway, so that's how you ring them together. But what if you want to ring them apart? Because you can ring them separately. Sometimes people think that Shelley is only for ringing together, and the other types of 4-in-hand are only for ringing separately. You can ring together and separately in all 11 kinds of 4-in-hand. We're only going 4 today. So here's where the thumb knot comes in to ring the primary alone. So in the text definition a few slides earlier, I said thumb knock is where you have the primary bell rotate around the axis of the other bell. So the secondary bell, if you point it forward, I know I said don't point your flappers at me, but point them at me now. This is the axis of its screw that holds it together, of its flappers mechanism. So we want to rotate around that like this. And by rotating around this one, the secondary will not ring. Bounce lays down, Augie stands up. What? Now,
Like this?
Go out.
no, you're ringing this one.
Oh.
The one you want to ring is pointed toward the ceiling. No, it doesn't ring forward, it rings in. Okay.
How
And I will refine this in a minute. We're still at the building block level right here.
Hold on a second, sorry. I guess I'm not.
Hello? Right there.
This is, yes, you're in Shelley, like this.
See, I heard it the other
No,
way.
that's another time. We'll get to that later. We're doing 4 different kinds.
Oh!
Okay, so pick them up, pick them up.
This is called Shelly?
This is called Shelley. Okay, now, take your secondary bell, which is this one, and point it at me. Point it at me. Point it at me. Okay. Now, this bell. Yes. But you have to keep this bell still. That's it, that's it. Okay.
Good, I'm sorry I shouldn't do it.
No, it's fine. I've never met you before. You look really familiar.
I remember JCR, I would see you.
That's why. Okay. So, this is just bare bones. I would never teach someone to just stand there whenever you're ringing a shell and you have to ring them separately. You just do this. It still has the preparation so I can follow through. You can even turn your palms forward and ring those separately. You can ring in, or this way, or if you're feeling adventurous, you can even ring out. Now, here's where the pinky knot thing comes in to ring the secondary alarm. Okay, Chris?
Okay, sorry.
That's right. So, when you're first learning how to do this pinky knock thing, if you imagine that your primary bell is full of water, you're going to dump it out.
Dump it.
So now we only want to ring the secondary, and you do that by rotating around the clapper of the other one. Once you get how that feels, you can then make it look more normal.
To ring the secondary alarm.
Now I recommend that we not go all the way over. We don't need to dump the water out of the secondary bell. This feels awkward, doesn't it? It does feel awkward. Because they ring their best when they're both ringing together because both clappers are going in the same direction.
Secondary.
So to ring them separately, you have to rotate around the axis of the other one, which can feel a little awkward. But it's possible. Agape ringers from Chicago, and if you went to Pinnacle in Wichita a week and a half ago, Arsis from Finland only rings in Shelley. Finland, the Arsis, they actually put 2 fingers between, which is how they have a little more control over the secondary bell. So this is something you do, like, it's really, because both clappers move in the same direction, if you need to play both of your bells really loudly, in Shelley you can, because all of your kinetic motion that you're putting into it moves the clappers in the same direction, you play them very loudly. You can still play them loudly in other ways, but it's a compromise which we will get to. So, push the ring in primary and secondary together. Again, you have all of this on your notes for further reference. Okay. Now let's move to the next one. So take your belt to disassemble them. We just leave the secondary on the table and put the primaries wherever they're going to go. This class is pitch agnostic. Most people use Shelley and four-hand in octaves, so like E6, E7, but you're not limited to that. You can do them with any 4 bells. Okay. So the next one, ring and push. Previously known as ring and knock, but I changed the terminology just because people do this and that's not what we want. It's really just a push, just like we did for Shelley. So these are really good for ringing both bells, each bell separately, because the clappers do not ring in the same direction. When laying on the table, the primary bell, the one that's on top of the stack, its clapper moves in this direction. The one that's on the table, its clapper moves in this direction. So it's very easy to ring them separately. It's also good for ringing them at the same time, although, like I said, if you need a really strong forte, Shelley's better for ringing 2 at the same time. But they are also really great when you need different dynamics for each bell, and this is where the magic comes in. So let's figure out how we put these together. Okay, so on the table, you start with your 4 bells. This time, we're still doing the outer 2 bells as primaries, and I think the reason I chose the outer ones is because I need that room to turn sideways. So just like we did for Shelley. And then, now, you rotate the bells, your primaries, so that you can see through the loop of the handle. You cannot see the note name, and the bell picture is towards you. Okay? And then we just pick them up just like we did before. I didn't leave enough space. Shame on me. Stack them on top. And when you've got them stacked, they look like that. So you can only see the bell picture of the bells on the bottom of the stack. The bells on top of the stack have a loop, so you can't see the note name or the bell picture. And the little bell picture is towards you. Okay. We picked them up the same way we did the Shelley, so 1, 1, and 3. So for the right hand, the thumb goes in the southwest. For the index finger goes in the northwest, and the other 3 go in northeast, and southeast is empty. Mirror that same thing on the other side. So the thumb's in the southeast, the index finger's in the northeast, and the other 3 are in the Pacific Northwest, where California and Arizona are empty. So before you ring them, to disassemble them, we just put the secondaries on the table and let go and put them down like that. So very easy to disassemble. Now, next up is in hand. So when you've got your 4 bells on the table as usual, you pick up 2 of them. Now remember how when we picked up the Shelley in hand, how we turned the bells and we kept these bells so that the little bell pictures were facing the ceiling? This time as they come down, you want the bell pictures to be facing you, and you just stack the one on top of the other. Just like before, you want to relax your hand, because if you keep this tight in all aligned with your thumb, then when you put it down on the bell, you're going to get it at an angle like this, instead of like this or like this, and we want it to be like that. So it sounds counterintuitive, but if you let go of the bell, it'll actually go where it's supposed to go. It just naturally falls into there. And again, we pick it up 1, 3, 3. Let your hands relax, the primary handles settle into position, and then you can pick them up. And then to disassemble them, you just put them down and separate them. Now, how do we ring them? Ring and push, there is a name. We've got our stack. The bell is between your thumb and your index finger is your primary, and it rings in a more or less normal ringing position. Meaning we prepare, we strike, and we follow through. Notice that at the moment of clapper strike, my bells that I want to ring are vertical. From this morning, does anybody remember why it's important to have the bells vertical at the moment of clapper strike? Sound protection. Okay? So to ring our secondaries, it's just like from Shelley. We have our palms forward, and we'll push it on the door. Preparation, strike, and follow through. Okay. How do you ring them together?
I don't know.
So this is where you call it a combo ring. And in general, if both of your bells are similar size, it's almost exactly at 45 degrees. So the way I learned from Nancy Haskell, who learned it from one of her students actually, to get the optimum angle for that, to ring both bells at the same time, is you pick a spot, like for example Bob's head, and he's between my bells, and I rotate my hand this way, and when his head disappears, I can just do my normal preparation, strike, and follow through. Not for this, preparation, strike, and follow through. So if the bells are similar size, 45 degrees is the magic angle. But what if I've got an F4 and an E flat 6? Is 45 degrees gonna work? Somewhat, but not necessarily. But if I find somebody's head and I do this, they're pretty much almost at the same time. This is an exaggerated example, but that's how you do that. So now, I said they were really great to ring together when you need a dynamic contrast between the 2 notes. So I have in my hand here a B5 and a C6. It's going to sound terrible, but for some reason, some wacky composer has decided to ring them both at the same time. And let's say that the B is the melody note and the C is not. I'm just making it up here. I want the B to be louder than the C. If I'm ringing them exactly in the middle, they're both the same dynamic. The secret is they will ring together the entire time between ring and push. Here is just the primary. Here is just the secondary. All along this entire thing, they will both ring. Whichever one you're closer to will be louder. So here's just my B. If I turn it just a smidgen this way, they both ring, but my B is louder. Now if I get right in the middle, they're about the same. Turn them off. When I get to here, my C is louder. And as farther I go towards push, the C is louder until finally it's the only thing. So that's how you can vary the volume of each of them, which is important not only in solo ringing, but also let's say some bell players that they have somebody covering GABC, GB6, C7. It's a common way to do that up there. And you don't want all of those 4 bells to be the same dynamic level every time. So you can use this method and any of the parallel methods, in fact, to make one bell louder than the other bell. All right. Stacked British Japanese. I'm going to. This is a way this is how they ring in Japan and in England when they do 4-in-hand. This is the method they use. New England ringers, some of them do as well, because they're the ones who learned straight from the British. The rest of us just kind of made it up as we went along. So again, because it's a parallel method, it's good for ringing each bell separately, easily, good for ringing both bells at the same time, and for different dynamics for each bell. Anybody here know Larry and Carla? Yeah. Okay, so they do those duets. Carla rings in this method because she's from England. So often seen in Great Britain, Japan, and Germany. So notice in this one, the bell that's on top of the stack, you can see the note name and the bell picture, and the bell that's on the bottom, you can see you can't because you see the loop. Okay? So this is what it looks like. How do we get there? Again, we've got our 4 bells lying on the table as usual. For this one, we're going to take, let's do the 2 inside ones. We're just going to spin them on the table and let go. So the ones on the outside are laying normally. These 2 are laying like this. Actually, I think I got it wrong. Go the other way. Sorry. They get ringing this way. So is that right now? Then the secondaries can, nope, I was right the first time. Inward.
Labeled inward?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yep, okay. So the bell picture on the outer 2 bells are pointing this way. The bell pictures on the inner 2 are going this way. Now, you take the outer bells and stack them on top of the inner bells.
With the bell pointing towards you.
Yeah, towards the ceiling. So these were the outer bells. See the bell pictures on top. And on these, the bell pictures are facing each other. Okay? So it looks a lot different from what we had before. Because the primary is now in ring position. Feels better. Somebody just said this is great. It feels better. There's a physical reason why it feels better. When you that's the one we just did before, which is ring and push. Notice how the clapper is wider here than it is here. Here it's skinnier, here it's wider. Do we have more room here or more room here? When we're doing ring and push, we're taking the skinny part of the bell, of the handle, putting it where we have a lot of room, and the wide part of the bell where we don't have a lot of room. For this one, with the British Japanese, we are putting, when we pick it up, 1 to 3, we all know the drill now, thumb in the lower inside quadrant, index finger in the upper inside quadrant, other 3 in the outer upper quadrant, and we pick it up. When we do it this way, then the skinny part of the handle between the thumb and between the index finger and the middle finger, and the wide part of the handle between the thumb and the index finger. So it feels much more, to me it feels much more comfortable, especially if you have small hands. If you have someone with small hands, this is a really good method for them to use. And it works just as well as any of the others. In fact, I will do it later. Sorry, that's my other class. I get excited, I'm going to tell you everything. So how do we did this part, we did assemble them on the table, right? Yeah. And to disassemble them, it's just like all the others, you release the secondaries, and you put them here. You might want to turn your secondaries back the right way. You can do that as you're putting them down if you get fancy, and just kind of drag it over, but I don't do that, because I can never get it right. So, pick it up in hand. This one's a little different now. So you take your primary bells, the 2 bells are going to be your primaries, and you You hold them in your hands as usual. Now you spin them in your hands. Rotate them this way. So now your little bell pictures are facing out. Okay? Out. Yes. Because we're in the hand now. On the table they face in your hand they face out. So you and then spread your. So now you've got that skinny part of the handle between your thumb and your first finger. So you talk about. You go into 1, 1, and 3, and slide your fingers, 3 fingers under the handles of the secondary bells. Make sure the secondaries don't roll, and you pick it up like that. Very graceful. It's hard to pick up unless you know. This takes practice. If these bells were suspended in air, it'd be easy. You would just come at it from the side like this. See, when I first saw people doing this, I thought, well, that's ridiculous. You have to roll out the bell on the bottom to get it to pick up. And Taiko Otsubo from Tokyo, who by the way is probably one of the very best bell ringers in the entire world. She's amazing. She says, no, you just do this. So it's weird. You come at it from the side and you pick it up. It's if you are just learning how, you might want to just spin that one on the table before you get to it. Again, it takes practice. These are new skills. You will not master them in the next half an hour. Yep. Yes. No, you've got a Wendy now. Hold on. Yes. I mean, it's one of those things where you're like, okay, what am I doing? How do I get there? I'm actually hitting my 3 fingers on the foam and sliding them under this way. That seems to help. And again, to disassemble, we just take them apart. And how do we ring these guys?
Yeah.
Why finish? Okay. So again, to do the primary alone, we're going to do a thumb knock. Now we don't necessarily have to be strict about rotating around the clapper here because the clappers are moving in different directions. This bell's clapper goes this way, this bell's clapper goes that way. So we can do our preparation strike and follow through. And if you've seen Carla ring, it's a very beautiful motion as she does it. And to ring the secondary bell, you point it towards the ceiling and just do a ring. Secondary bell is the one that's between your index and middle finger. Yes, these bells point towards the ceiling. With your palms facing each other. So doing this will not ring the secondaries. Doing this will ring the secondaries. To ring them together, put the preparation strike and follow through. I see some people thinking too hard. And then I see people trying to do this. Preparation, strike, and follow through. So we don't want to just do this. Okay. And again, combo to ring them together. That's a 45-degree angle. They will both ring, and the same thing between like we do with the parallel with the ring and push. Everywhere in between those 2 spots, it'll ring louder in the one it's closer to. Okay. If you have to do a forehand for a long time, like you go to like distinctly bronze or something, and you're there for like 8 hours at a time doing forehand, this method will feel a lot better in your hand. So one thing that's nice about British Japanese is that you can interlock them and it will feel even better. So for this one, if you set up your stack for what we just did a minute ago, just you spoon down, let go. Then if you slide the primary off and put the secondary handle inside the primary's handle. So notice that the primary's handle goes, the secondary's handle is inside the primary's handle. Okay? So this, you can see this note handle. It looks a lot like this one, but notice that the angle between the bells is a little bit wider because of the handle block right here. You can't get this one like way up against there because there's a handle block and the screws are holding the handle on. So there's a little bit more room here, which is why, and AKA Campanile. Campanile was a handbell jazz theater group in LA. They disbanded in the mid-2000s, I think it was, maybe 2010, 2008 or something. It's like their last show. But they use this method nearly exclusively. Anybody know Kay Cook or remember Kay Cook? heard kids groups use this method almost exclusively as well. So it's often seen on the West Coast. And similarly, you can pick this is how we just did it on the table. You just set them that way and you put that one inside. And this time to pick up is 1, 2, and 2. So it's Mr. Spock.
Oh.
Thumb in the inside lower quadrant, index and ring in between the bells, the other two in the upper outside quadrant. The lower outside quadrant is empty.
I like
Why
this.
2 fingers? Because there's a lot of space there. But again, because of the way the handles are, the thickest part of the handle is between your thumb and your index finger, and the skinny part of the handle is between your middle and your ring fingers. You ring it just like we did with the stacked method, which is that thumb knock to ring the primary, and just a ring to ring the secondary. One of the magical things about this method, how much effort do I have to put in to hold it? Almost none. If you are doing, like, I don't know, the Salvation Army's bucket, you're playing 8-bell duets or something, you will not get as tired as you would if you have to actually do any of the stacked methods. Okay? Now, another thing that's absolutely magical. Get them out here. These are a little bit big for me to be doing that thumb set. But with the smaller set, we have a smaller set. So, in order to, if you have to ring and thumb down quickly. So it's really good if you need to, or if you want to dampen here. Say you're ending a piece, I don't know, like habanero or something, and you've got a ring touch at the end. So you just nice and easy to get them. So that's the magic part, is that now you can play away from your body. You no longer have to bring the bells back into your body to damp them. Because you can damp them out there wherever you want. Okay. And here's how to in the hand and together. We talked about the thumb knock and the ring and the combo. Practice does not make perfect. Practice makes permanent. I just want to make sure I'm going 3:45. Good, we got plenty of time. So you can practice changing one assembled method to another on the table. So for example, if you set up a Shelly and you want to turn it to the other one, you know that you can turn your primary bell and then you'll have to ring and push. Or if you turn the secondary bell, you would under the British Japanese. And so like I say, assemble the bells in Shelly, then leaving the bells on the table, change the stacks to ring and push. All of these things. Then I have some table drills as well at this URL. But there is no substitute for slow and steady practice. There are 11 different ways to do 4 in hand. Okay? We've covered 4 so far. These are the 4 that I use almost all the time. There's another 2 that I use in special occasions, and there's one that I use in emergency. The other 4 I use in dire emergencies. So there's a lot of points, and they each have different strengths and different weaknesses. One of the advantages to the British-Japanese method, especially the interlock, is that you can mark the bells. You know, so but this one is harder to mark them together. For marking them together, you would want to use Shelly. So each method has a different strength and a different thing. But let's do some in-hand drills. Woo! So, again, it's all in text. So, in the following exercise, our bells are numbered as follows. So let's just start with, I guess, let's do it with Shelly. The left hand, number 1, so that's one by your thumb in primary, and primary is in these exercises with all the numbers here is, here I am, is number 1. Number 2 is the right hand primary. Number 3 is the left hand secondary. Number 4 is the right hand secondary. So, with all 4 bells in hand, we want to ring the bells separately in various sequences. So, let me show you what I'm talking about. We're in Shelly, and I want to do that first line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 1, 4, 3, etc. I would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4, 2, 3, 1. Here we go. 4, bells together, there's fewer of those. You can have 1 and 2, 1 and 3, 1 and 4, 2 and 3, and 2 and 4. And you can ring 3 bells together in different combinations. Exactly. So, and for an added challenge, practice using different methods in each hand. So, for example, if this was Shelley, and let's say my right hand was ring and push, I'm going to ring 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 4, 1, 3. So there's different motions. You can see there's different movements that bring them in different sequences. And practice them, you know, with one in the left hand, one in the right hand, and then once you get good at that, practice them with the other hands. There is no substitute for slow and steady practice. I've said that twice already, but it is so true. You can't really learn a skill, really integrate a skill into your musical performance until you learn it. And to learn it, there's no substitute for practice. I said, why do I need to know all these things? Because they do different things. I have another class called Tricks of the Treble Trade, where we go through all 11 of them and what situations you would use these things. I'm going to show you one more kind of bonus method. This is the Wendy Wagoner. This is really good for ringing both bells at the same time and to shake. Quite awkward to ring each bell separately. But this one is the one that I use when I need to. I would never choose to ring this way unless I'm doing a shake. I would never choose to ring this way if I had to ring them separately. But I do when I have to. And so, notice, you cannot see any bell pictures or note names. This is a parallel ring. So both bells are in ringing position. So if we take our 2 bells on the right side and turn them so that the bell pictures are in, pointing toward the middle, and the 2 bells are on the left side, point them so that they're 2. So 2 on this side, their bell pictures point this way, 2 on the left side, their bell pictures point that way. And stack one on top of the other, and it really doesn't matter which one is which. And you pick them up. If you need to shake, this is brilliant. I find shaking forehand to be very awkward. If I have to shake a forehand, I generally interlock them because the bells are farther apart. You get a better shake, but if you just need to shake them both together, this works really well, especially for those ones that are like 6 measures long. But how do you ring them separately? Because both clappers are going in the same direction. And because they're in such a way that you can't rotate around them, because if I do that, it doesn't ring because the bell doesn't ring sideways because the clapper goes that way. And if I do this, it also doesn't ring because the clapper is going this way. So this is where that piston stroke comes in. So the bell that you want to ring, you point it toward the ceiling. The other bell is pointed straight forward, in this case the secondary, and I'm just going to go straight back, straight forward. Like a piston. There is no finesse in this, it's just straight ahead. During the secondary, you point it toward the ceiling. This one is pointed straight at your face, and you just still do the piston. Why would I ever need to do this? So let's say you're playing a forehand part, and when you put the bells together, they roll. Because maybe you're marting, and your stacks change into this, and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to ring them separately. You pick them up, and now you can. But I would not choose to do that. I would never set them this way on purpose unless I was going to shake them. But I know how to do it because I've had to know how to do it because I've had situations where my bells have rolled into this. So that's a bonus method for that. And again, we can even do that with our drills that we were doing. It's a lot harder, but that's okay. So I can go 1, 2, 3, 4. So again, it's like playing Twister, but with handbells instead. So this is one of the ones that I'm glad I know how to do it, but it is definitely not the first tool I reach for, unless it shakes, because they work great with shakes. And they do well with chimes as well for shakes. Let me show you this. So obviously a chime is different from a handbell in that the clapper is on the outside, and if you try to shake a handbell, it doesn't ring this way, right? So it can only ring this way. So you get a series of fast notes. But you turn one the other way around. That works really well for that, if you have time to get there. Otherwise, you're relying on just on the whole ensemble to fill in those things. If you are the only person in the music that is shaking and you play chimes, I'm sorry. It's gonna sound like that, no matter what you do. Sometimes people hold them down a little bit to let gravity help them, and it still just sounds like so, excellent. So let's do some dexterity drills. Woo! So this is where I changed my other thing. Okay. So, basic in-hand skills, part 1. And again, this is a PDF. It was already midnight when I was finished doing my other, making my PowerPoints that somehow weren't on my computer. So we're just gonna read right from the page, from the PDF here. So, choose your favorite 4-in-hand method and put your bells in that configuration, saxophone or interlock, whatever you want to do. So in this one, we're just using one hand, and you pick up one of your stacks. You're going to take the primary bell in the hand that's holding them and put it in the other hand. That's all we're doing. And then we're going to put it back. Then we can do the same with the secondary. And put it back. You can take the primary, for me it's in my right hand, I take my primary and put it in secondary in my left hand. And I can put it back. I can do the same thing with the other one. So they sound silly and it's so simple, why am I passing a bell hand to hand? Because these are basic skills. It's like when you learn how to play, I don't know, football, they do a lot of drills. So that when the time comes, they know how to do it. Now when I say pass the primary hand to hand, there's a lot of shift seat forward to do it. So if you were in my earlier class, you understand what that means. Passing secondary hand to hand, start with the bell in secondary push position, pass to the other hand's secondary. So it's like that. It ends up in secondary over here.
Can you do that slowly?
Yes. So this is my secondary bell. I want it to end up in this hand between my index and middle finger. The receiving hand goes underneath. Takes the bell, and you slide down. Why does the receiving hand go underneath? There's 2 reasons. It won't fall. But also, because it leaves room underneath. If I try to take it from up top, I can't get under the hand guard. So the receiving hand goes underneath. Ditto when I want to put it back. Now can you do it with another bell in this hand? Yes. A little more awkward, but yes, you can do it. That was accidental. But so you can do it as more awkward, and you become more skilled at these the more you do it. Where is my thing? There it is. I don't need it. All right. So this is another one of these dexterity drills, spinning the bell. So with just one bell in your hand, you can just spin the bell into the bell pictures on that side, spin it back so the bell pictures towards you, spin it again so the bell pictures toward that way. This is a foundational one, so that when you have 2 bells in your hand, you get used to spinning that primary into a different way, like that. I can go from ring and push into Sharik by spinning that bell. I can spin my secondary bell so I end up in Japanese, Christian Japanese, and put it back. I can spin it again this way and spin that way. Do this over a padded table to get into the landing. Because sometimes you need to do things when you don't have time to pick it up the other way. But sometimes you don't need to do that because you know how to ring each one separately. So you do what makes sense at the time to do. Primary version 1, version 2, version 3. This is spinning the secondary. Okay, primary to second. Let's do this one. I like this one. Passing your bell in the same hand. You have one bell in your hand. So it's in just regular ring position. We want it to be in secondary position because we're going to add another bell in the primary. So what we do is we shift the seat forward, put the index finger over it, and now it's in secondary. Go ahead and do that. So it starts in primary, and it shifts over to secondary. Later versions of this, we would take the other bell and put it in there with the other hand. So this is primary to secondary and back again. Now, this is the added challenge is mixing styles. So we start with primary in our ring and push in ring configuration, and we switched it to secondary, which is now in push. But what if we had it in ring position and we switch it to British Japanese? now it's, so all of the, as you can tell, there's multiple pages of these exercises. And I guarantee you, if you're bored, this is a great way to fill your time. And I do this at restaurants with forks and spoons, and people look at me funny, but like I said in the previous class, I'm not a handbell nerd or a handbell geek, I'm a handbell dork. Definitely. I think about this stuff all the time. And then added challenges to do these both hands at the same time in different methods. Passing into the stack methods, etc. So if you want, this is not included in the packet of stuff you have, but I think I should have included it because it's really good. But I only do this if we actually have enough time to get to it, because sometimes we don't. So if you want a copy of these, just send me an email. My email is on your notes, and I will happily send this to you. I am all about dexterity drills in handbell stuff. Pass into Wendy. You cannot pass into Wendy because we're in an interlock one. Right now, this set of things, passing into secondary interlock method. So you start with one bell in each hand. With your left hand, shift seat forward. With your right hand, rotate bell quarter turn and put that handle inside. Easy peasy when you've got a left hand free. Now, you repeat it with the other hand. But now, passing into Wendy in an interlock method. Wendy is the only one that cannot be interlocked, and that's why there's 11 methods of forehand and not 12. So why can't it be interlocked? Because you can't put the handles inside each other this way. Remember that they both go this way. So all the other ones want you to put it in and turn it to get an interlocked Shelley, but you can't put the other one inside and get a Wendy. So that's why it says pass into Wendy. Just kidding. So Wendy cannot be interlocked. Okay. So if you wish to have people stare at you in restaurants while you're waiting for your food, these are great drills to do with the fork and knife and spoon. Any questions? Are you all just like my brain at school? I don't know what to ask. You have my email address. I will happily talk about bells for hours at a time like I have today. So please email me if you have any questions. Plus we have an ask us anything question coming up soon. So it is